Welcome to the Path to Mindset Mastery. My name is Bizjack. I'm a mindset strategist and coach, inspirational speaker, and creator of Appreciation Academy. And I help online business owners just like you silence all the negative self-talk holding you back so you can finally see the success that you deserve. And I'm curious if you ever struggle sitting on the couch, knowing exactly what you need to do, wanting your life to change, but not having the drive, the mojo, the energy to do it. And that is exactly what I went through for a really long time. I remember seeing my laptop staring at me going, like, bro, change your life. Like, literally, like if my laptop was talking to me. It was like telling me to change my life. And I had all the tools I needed to change my life. I saw all these successful people, and I had tons of them in my network that I could reach out for help. And I remember not being able to take action for whatever reason. I was like watching Breaking Bad or Friends or whatever was on Netflix that day. And I just didn't care that I wasn't taking action, but at the same time, I cared so much, and I felt so down, so depressed, so useless. And I used to call them my bad days. And then I got pissed off at myself for being depressed, pissed off at myself for being less than I could really be. And it wasn't fair to my future. And so why was I procrastinating? And why do you procrastinate in some ways in your business? And that's what today is about. Today is about mastering procrastination. Procrastination can appear in your life for a ton of reasons, whether that's fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, perfectionism, over-planning, low self-esteem, lack of purpose or direction. All of those things will create procrastination. And what it really boils down to is procrastination is fear, and fear is the anticipation of pain. So before we go into how to do this, we need to realize that hesitation breeds fear. We just need to do it because action cures fear. Inaction breeds fear. And any attempts to protect yourself from problems actually create more problems. Think about it like a phone call you need to make to apologize to someone, but you don't call. You procrastinate. Well, what happens? Doesn't that idea of making that phone call get more and more intense? Almost like it becomes more and more difficult to do it. And then we procrastinate more, and that in itself just creates more problems, and it proves the idea that hesitation breeds more fear. But what would happen if you just ripped the Band-Aid off and call right away? The fear would have subsided, you would have felt more free, the situation would have been resolved right away. Action kills fear. And what happens is we even come up with elaborate stories and reasons why we have to wait, right? Oh, I'll just start fresh on my workout and nutrition plan on Monday because then that's when I'll be able to plan my meals by, right? I feel like on Monday I can get a clean start, right? That's not fair to you. Like, how does it even logically make sense to get a start on Monday when literally you could just eat a vegetable today? One of the ways that I did it building my Appreciation Academy course was that I would do different trainings on social media and webinars. That's like how I built my course. I did different trainings, public speaking, and I would rationalize to myself before I started really getting into it that I needed to learn more skills before I could do that. But that's not true. It's just an elaborate way to procrastinate, right? Have you ever done that? Have you ever come up with a complex story or explanation of why you can't do something? And you know it's bullshit, but you still say it. And you even go out of your way to make that story true so you don't have to act. You know exactly what I'm talking about, where you literally try to prove that story is right. And you find all the reasons to make it happen so you don't have to act. And we know this, right? We logically we know this stuff. But for some reason, we can't get ourselves to change. And we know that if we wait until the right time, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. You know that. Tomorrow, next week, someday, all that, they're just synonyms for the word never. And it means you'll never do it. And sometimes, and maybe, those words are toxic. Someday is a cop-out for the word never, and maybe is a giant gateway to regret. Let me repeat that. Someday is a cop-out for the word never, and maybe is a giant gateway to regret. Saying the words like, I can't, it's not fair to you. Like, what if I had said that for creating my course? It's not fair to my future. It's not fair to my clients that I serve. So how do we use this? Well, we all procrastinate because we have fear. And like we've talked about in other podcast episodes, fear is the anticipation of pain. So what needs to happen is you need to learn how to use pain. So everything human beings do is either stemmed by the need to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. Everything. You watching this video, it's the same thing, or listening to this podcast if it's on your phone. It's the same thing. And a lot of people don't recognize the horrible cost of the status quo because we live in anticipation of pain. If you live craving certainty, living in the anticipation of what could go wrong, you don't even realize what it's costing you. It's not just protecting you from what could go wrong, but it's keeping away everything good in your life. So we know we need to act, but it's the anticipation of pain, because on the flip side, have you ever been in an experience of putting something off for so long and then suddenly you felt like you just had to get it done? And an example would be studying for a test. You put it off for weeks and weeks and weeks until the night before the exam. And you say, you know what? Shit, I got to do this. Because what happened? The pain of not taking action became greater than the pain of doing it. That's exactly why it changed. Because you knew that the consequences of not getting a good grade on that exam were greater than the consequences of what would happen if you studied for it, right? Or the things that you would give up. So this is where a lot of people mess it up. They have a short-term approach to success instead of a long-term approach. So Tony Robbins says that the secret to success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. If you do that, you're in control of your life. If you don't, your life controls you. So my point is, if we link enough emotional pain to a behavior or an emotional pattern we get into, we will avoid it at all costs. But we can use this. So think about exercise. This is what a lot of people link massive pain to. Why? Because they have to think about what a lot of people make it seem like. They make it seem like this huge deal that is going to take a bunch of massive steps, and it's going to take going across town to a gym and getting sold a membership and getting into the locker room and getting changed and getting to a sweaty machine, not knowing how to use the machine, then getting sold a membership, driving back across town. All these insane things go into it. And when you look at all the steps in your mind that it takes to go into a gym, your brain goes, whoa, let's not do that, right? So we're essentially linking pain to working out, even though we know it would be good for us, right? But think about how fit people view it. Think about the difference in their mind about it. People that like to exercise to sculpt their bodies and experience pain daily, why do they do that? They've converted the discomfort that they feel while exercising into pleasure and link more pain to not working out, to disease, right? More pain linked to that than to eating healthy. They see it as more painful to be overweight without self-confidence and tired all the time instead of the effort to go to the gym. So my point is that it's how you use pain and pleasure that will determine the action you take. So most of us have an instinctual reaction to pain and pleasure, right? Like it's not calculated. It's just something we do. And most of us are more motivated by pain than we are by pleasure. So here's an example. So if I were to say, would you rather work harder to save up $20,000 or to protect $20,000 from getting stolen from you? Which would you choose? For most people, not everyone, but most people, they choose to protect $20,000 from getting stolen from them because they are reacting more to pleasure or to pain than they are to pleasure. So the problem that most people do is they don't consciously choose this. They just go with their gut and don't choose a long-term approach. Most people use short-term thinking instead of long-term thinking. Most of us think pleasure now instead of pain now. So think about it. The short-term pain of making the right decision typically leads to long-term pleasure, right? Short-term pain, so exercising, eating healthy, typically leads to longevity, long-term pleasure, feeling healthy, living longer, right? But if you choose short-term pleasure, that cheeseburger, whatever it is, you're going to experience long-term pain, heart disease, right? That's what most people do. That's what they experience. So there's a quote that I love. I forgot who it's by, but it says, easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. So if you've ever tried to make a change in your life, but you've procrastinated, it just means that the level of pain for failing to change is not intense enough. That's it. So if you can find a strong enough reason to change, you can change anything in a single second that you've been failing at for years. You can. So the greatest leverage you can create is failing to live up to the standards for your life that you have. Isn't that true? Like if you look back at your life as if you're 85 years old, isn't the most painful thing to not live a life that you really wanted to live? So how do we solve procrastination? Well, procrastination is really simple. It just means that we view taking action as more painful than doing nothing. And we'll experience less pain by doing nothing. So the simplest way to put it for you is to start linking consequences to not taking action. Start linking consequences to not taking action. And don't just say, oh, I won't get it done. But you need to actually think worst case scenario here. So what I have my clients do is I want you to think about what happens if you don't take action emotionally 6 months from now. And you're going to write out all the consequences of that if you don't take action. Then you're going to go 2 years. You're going to say, what are the emotional consequences in my life? And not just emotional, financial, mental, spiritual, anything. Consequences in my life 2 years from now. Then 5 years from now. Then 10, then 20. And you're going to do that for each one. Think about the long-term consequence that you will face. And when you look at that, you're going to realize the fear of loss is so much stronger, because what you might be missing out on is a little bit of TV time or being judged, right? That's what you're missing out on, or that's what you're getting away from by not taking action. But if you actually link up emotional consequence to this, then what's going to happen is you're going to look at these situations and go, oh my gosh, I am never going to live a life of freedom if I don't take action right now. I'm going to drive my husband or wife away from staying at this bullshit job and being so sad all the time and depressed all the time about work that doesn't fulfill me. Or you know what? I'm going to have heart disease. I'm going to have a stroke or a heart attack if I don't start taking care of my body. You realize that the long-term consequences, the long-term pain from choosing short-term pleasure is so much greater than the short-term pain for long-term pleasure. Does that make sense? So my homework for you coming out of this podcast today is to choose one main action step that you've been procrastinating on and go through that. Link consequence to not taking action. What does it cost you? 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And get deep, get dark, and see if that pain is more intense than the pain that you currently associate to taking action. And that's how you beat procrastination. You link consequence to not taking action. You can do this for any part of your life, I promise. So I hope this was helpful today. I hope it showed you how to link this and how to consciously choose pain and pleasure instead of pain and pleasure using you. When you're one of the very few that does that, and you choose the long-term approach to life instead of the short-term approach to life, life gets much easier very, very quickly. You just have to choose that first. So thank you so much for tuning into the Path to Mindset Mastery today. Use this. And if you feel this was valuable, go there to my iTunes and leave a rating and review on this podcast. I know it'll be super valuable for more people if we can get it into more hands. So go out there today and every day and live your life with a genuine smile on your face, because think of the consequence if you don't. I'll see you next week.